what is coupling, relationships in couples in this world, and is it connected to the upper world? Do pairs meet in the upper world and then in the lower world, and is it interpreted there differently than here? And if a person doesn't have a mate, does one lose something from the correction in the upper world? And if he or she doesn't have a mate, is this fate? Do you have more energy? There's more. According to the Baal Shem Tov, it seems that each soul is a tiny candle, and when two souls light together, they light as one light. And when you can't find a mate, does that mean there's a flaw in you, especially in this generation? Also, you feel a lack of harmony and wholeness, and it's sorrow. And a person is called whole when he's together and feels half alone. When a person doesn't have a home and has children, does that deny something of the spiritual world? Okay, we'll try to only touch that huge question. Well, first of all, the spiritual demand is for in terms of spiritual demands, anyone can advance alone without getting married in this world and being married and not have a family. And we saw that in the past. Although a person who wants to advance more effectively and quickly also needs to be married and have a family. Why? Because that's how our world is built. And a person should use this world, its events, its systems, to advance. And the family system helps you a lot with it, in better and in worse. So that's one. Is there a connection because a person marries someone who is a spiritual mate? Not necessarily. We're talking about weddings, the way they're done. Except in the last 100 years, people always got married, were wedded by their children. They had all kinds of matchmakers among Jews and in other nations too. This was not something that was left for the young to search for themselves on the street for someone, and marry them. Yeah, but that's changed already. It's changed now, but we have to understand that that's how it was for thousands of years. And the reason it was like that, it is because that's how it was. That's how it is in nature. You have tribes in South America or in Africa or in Europe. The patterns, just by nature, made it quite similar everywhere. So we have to see why this happens. And today, it's happening not necessarily for the better. Maybe a corruption, just like the rest of the crises in this world. That today people marry however they feel like, and not because their parents perhaps know better who can be more suitable for the nature of their sons and daughters. But in any case, I would say this. Everyone has his or her own spiritual path, and especially today, without pressure, without oppression, without any demand. Anyone with a desire for spiritual development should approach it and realize it without any demands towards one's mate. We know that there's no coercion in spirituality. Everyone has his or her time. So respect each other according to the way you are, and not by, sometimes I hear from women, why isn't my husband attracted to spiritual development? He's not. He's still developing, and by that he's perhaps doing his part truthfully. So there's no flaw in it. No, he's not stopping his wife in her development by that. What is a pair in spirituality? The spiritual pairing is within a person. Within you, you find a part that's called the male part and the female part, and you have to balance them and connect the two. His male part is the part of God above, called the light, the spark, the giver in you, part of love. No, part of, well, I don't want to say love. Then it's as if the female part is not in it. The female part is a desire in us, and that's the part we need to correct. That's why this part is lacking. So the male part towards the female part, these two parts have to perform the mutual correction to bring the male part down into the female part, prepare the female part to absorb the male part, and when these two parts unite, they beget something called a soul. Does it exist in a man and in a woman? Yes, of course, in everyone. In everyone you have a male part and a female part, right? Yes, of course. Just like in everything. In an atom you have a positive and negative particles. It's like that in everything and in every person. We can even see it according to our biological makeup. We all have genes or parts that are male and parts that are female by nature. But their balance in this way or that way determines one's gender. Okay, with half a smile, I want to ask you something. When you talk about having a male and female part in each of us, is it a state called divorce in spirituality? To begin with, we are in a state of hatred, internal hatred to each other. We have to understand how these parts should unite into reciprocity, how they're meant for one another. And by learning these things internally, we then can transfer it externally. In short, if we want to have a good, successful family with good kids and everything, let's correct ourselves inside, and then it'll project outwardly. What is coupling, relationships in couples in this world?